Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Realistic here, and I'm doing another tutorial for SoundOracle.net, and this is a tutorial that I've gotten quite a few requests on, and so I'm going to go over Reverb, and I'm going to give 3 tips that I think are important to consider when working with Reverb. And you know, like I always say, these tips and tricks will work in any DAW, so even though I'm working Pro Tools, they'll work in anything, so no need to worry about this not translating over to your DAW, especially since for the most part I'm using third-party plugins anyways. Alright, so let's dive in here. So my first tip here, number 1, and I think this is a really important one, is knowing where to place your reverb, whether it should be on the insert strip here or as a send. And for me, with reverbs and also delays, anything based with like time-based effects, I highly suggest using this as a send rather than an insert. So basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to create a send. I have one already created, but if you just want to see how it's done, we just go to new track and then we'll just type in what we want it to be called, press create, and then you can see it's routed everything here. So the output of this send is going to the input of this right here, and then we would just put some type of reverb right on here like this, and then that's all we'd have to do for that. I already have a reverb chain set up here, but I did want to show you how that's done. And the reason why we want to do it as a send versus just an insert directly on the channel is we got a few reasons. So let's start with one of the reasons, and one reason is because it really saves on a lot of CPU. Reverbs are something that's just like really big and eat up CPU, especially a reverb like this with a lot going on with it. What's really nice about it is I know that I'm going to use this same reverb on all these different types of vocals here. You know, I got different rap vocals in here, different types of rappers, and I got a few little vocal tracks on this chorus as well, and they're all going to use the same reverb. And so now I've only got this one reverb in this session right here. I do got another one that I use differently for background vocals, but I do have this main reverb. And now think about this, if I were to put this on every channel, we're talking right there like 7 to 8 channels that I would be having to put this reverb on, and it's going to eat up my CPU, versus being able to just send each one to the same reverb. It's really convenient and it's a lot lighter on your CPU. The other one is when the reverb is directly on the channel here, what it's going to do is it's going to, there's a wet dry knob, but the problem is as we start blending in the wet, we start losing the dry signal. And I'll show you what I'm talking about there. I'll mute the reverb as a send here, and what I did was I went ahead and I made sure everything has the same exact settings just about here. Alright, and so we'll start out here with this vocal here, and so let's check it out with it as a send here.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds 'cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs or give me the ropes.
Alright, cool. So we can hear that we have the dry signal, which is this signal right here without the reverb.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
But we also have the reverb. So both of them are going at the same time. That's what we're looking for, especially with something like a vocal. We want to be able to have the dry and the wet at the same time and then just blend it in later on. Now, if I were to just put this directly on the channel here, I'll show you where that starts to run into issue. First off, this is at 100% wet, so obviously when I hit play, it's going to be a little too much. A little too much reverb. Well, let's ease up here.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds 'cause I gotta shine.
So even at something as minimal as 17% here, we start to hear that it's a lot more washy than we want it, because we're starting to lose the dry signal. It's canceling out the original dry signal, and it's starting to slowly change it into the wet. And the more that we go over here, we're only getting wet signal, and the more that we go over here, we're only getting dry signal. We're not getting a combination of the two.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
So let's check that out in the mix.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
Alright, and now let's check it out with the send.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds 'cause I gotta shine.
So we get more of a clear sound because we're getting both. We're not having to deal with trying to find the exact balance of where our dry signal is missing. What's really nice with the send is I have this little channel right here where it chooses how much information it's going to send to the reverb here.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the rope. Outlaw, I need what.
All right, so yeah, it's a fairly simple one, but it's something that I see in a lot of sessions that are wrong. So it's just something that I think that you should keep in mind and consider, definitely putting it on as a send versus an insert. You'll get a much better sound and a lot pure sound that you're looking for. All right, so my next tip is doing some filtering here before the reverb. I think this is one that can really clean some stuff up. And so you want to pay attention to where you are at the chain. You see where my reverb is. It's right here. It's third in the chain. So I'm not going to want to put my filter afterwards. What I'm going to want to do is I want the filter to actually be first in the chain, because what I want to do is I want to filter out some information of the source before it even hits the reverb here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out everything out from like 120 and below, and then I'm just gonna cut off things coming in at about like 7K and below almost here. That way I'm not getting too many of the harsh highs coming in, and I'm not getting too much of the lows here. So it's a subtle thing, but it can really help, because reverb is something that's really washy and can cause a lot of rumble and stuff. So and we definitely want to avoid having that in the mix, because that can really cause a muddy mix. And so basically we're going to just cut all this information out before it even hits the reverb. Filtering is really important, and I think at the very least you should have that going on with the reverbs. You see I got other things going on with the reverbs too. I'm de-essing, I'm adding a little distortion and a little compression to my reverb as well, but those aren't tips as far as like absolute must like this top 3 is that we're doing for the list. But filtering is something that I think you should definitely pay attention to. So let's go ahead and we give this a listen.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
And then without it.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me diamonds cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the rope.
So you can hear how that just cleaned up the reverb quite a bit there when we soloed it out. If you really pay attention to the lows and you're listening on some nice headphones or nice speakers, you should be able to hear that go from a little bit of a muddy rumble to a nice milky smooth sound. And sometimes what I'll do too is I'll put another filter after the reverb just to make sure I'm getting some of that low end rumble out of the reverb as well that's coming afterwards.
Diamonds cause I gotta shine. Diamonds cause I gotta shine. Diamonds cause I gotta shine.
Just really clears things up. Let's listen without both of them.
Diamonds cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the ropes. Diamonds cause I gotta shine.
So just really clears things up, and let's listen to it in the mix.
I'm an outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the rope.
So it just really clears things up, and it fights less with other instruments, especially like the bass and the kick. We really don't need that low end information in there anyways. All right, so my last tip when it comes to reverbs and making sure that you got a professional sound and reverb here is you want to make sure that your pre-delay and your decay times are in sync with the BPM, believe it or not, because this is a time-based thing that we're dealing with. The reverb starts and it ends at a certain time, so when you think about that in those terms, it actually makes a lot of sense that we want it to start and end in some type of set note, right? We want to have it to where it's locked in with the tempo, so it's not just chaos. And that's something where when I hear a lot of reverbs on other mixes and stuff, it's something that I instantly hear that is missing. And I do have a full video on pre-delay to explain where I kind of break it down and break down the whys, but I'm going to show you that right here as well. So on this particular one, what I did is I already had set everything up, but why don't we make this a little bit more chaotic, and then what we'll do is we'll dive in and we'll fix things as it needs to be. All right, so let's listen to it.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs.
So the reverb now kind of sounds a lot more muddy and sounds more chaotic, and it just doesn't seem as smooth, and there definitely seems to be something wrong. And what that is we need to focus on the decay time and the pre-delay. Now this particular reverb, what I like about this one is it allows me to sync up the pre-delay to be on a set note of value. So at that I really like. Not all reverbs are going to have that, so I'm going to show you what you need to set your pre-delay at just in case your reverb doesn't have one of these on there. But basically with the pre-delay in its shortest term is when is the reverb going to start, and so what it's doing is it's just delaying the reverb, just like a delay would do for when we put it on a vocal when we're trying to cause an echo effect. The echo that we're putting on there is going to delay the vocal by a certain amount. Well, same with this pre-delay on the reverb is we're going to delay the reverb. What I have here, I have it delayed by a 30-second note. So the reverb won't start until a 30-second note after the signal has already hit it. And then in this case, it's when the singer sings into it. All right, so let's check this out. I'll hit solo here.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
All right, now let's take off this and here.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
And let's even bring this to 0.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, cause
All right, now let's lock it into a 30-second note.
outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, cause
So you can hear just off the pre-delay right there, when we have it set to a 30-second note afterwards and it's locked in, things start to sound smoother and everything. And why the pre-delay is really nice is it allows the dry signal of the vocal to cut through first, and then the reverb follows after. So then we can enjoy the dry signal and it can cut through right away, but we can still get that lush sound of the reverb in the background. I'll show you a really exaggerated version so you can really hear what's going on.
outlaw, I need what's mine.
Okay, so I have that on a pretty slow time right there where you could hear the dry signal coming in first and then the reverb coming in later.
Outlaw, I need what's mine.
All right, so we'll go back to a 30-second note because that's where I want to set that at. Now let's talk about if your reverb doesn't have the ability to sync it in with the note. What do we do? Well, what we need to do here is we need to do a quick math equation. So I'm going to break this down real quick here and show you. You can see I was doing this earlier. That's where this number is coming from because I use this all the time. I use this for my decays too. That's why that's there. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to take 7,500 and we're going to divide it by the BPM, which I think it's 117, is it? Yeah, 117. So we're going to divide it by 117, and that's going to bring us right to a 30-second note. So what we need to do then is we need to type in this number down here, and we need to type in this number down here, 64.1, and that will give us a 30-second note. All right, so now we're at a 30-second note.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, cause I got.
Now, if we wanted a 16th note, all we'd have to do is just times that number by 2, and now we have the value of what a 16th note would be with this BPM, 128.2. So what we'll do is we'll type in that information then, and now we have a 16th note.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, cause I gotta shine.
All right, so now you're probably wondering why 7,500? Like, where does this number come from? Well, I'll show you where this number comes from here. Let's divide this by 2 so we can see our 30-second note again. So 64.10, lock that into your memory of what that number is. The reason why 7,500 is because it's 1/8 of 60,000. So if I type in 60,000 and I divide it by 8, we got 7,500. And so there are 60,000 milliseconds inside of a minute. And when we're dealing with BPM, we're talking about beats per minute. So 60,000 milliseconds inside of a minute. That makes sense, right? Now we could get the same value here if we divided by the BPM, right? So this right here is going to give us a quarter note. That's what we have right there. Now, a quarter note, that's probably going to be way too long for a pre-delay as we showed before. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to divide by 2, and now we got ourselves an 8th note. Divide by 2 again, there's our 16th note, and then this should be that 64.10 right here. Boom, right there, that's our 30-second note. So you could do all that and you could keep dividing, but what I did was I just gave you the quick how to get to a 30-second note right away. So that's why I have that right there. All right, now let's talk about decay. It's same thing. Now decay is going to be when we're ending here. Let me put this over to a 30-second note now. All right, so decay is when the reverb ends, and we don't want just any type of random one here. So for decay times, I like to either use a 16th or an 8th note value, and in this particular one, because, you know, the beat's going a little bit faster, there's a lot going on, I probably want it to end faster, so I'm going to choose a 16th note. So we're already at a 30-second note, so it's really simple. Just times that by 2. This is the value that I'm going to want to have this cut off at 16th notes. So let's check this out here. We'll type in 128.2 here. All right, so now our reverb is going to start after a 30-second note, but it's going to end at a 16th note. And this is key. It's going to make your reverb sound really professional. It's going to lock everything in, and it's going to just keep everything in sync with each other. So let's check this out.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, 'cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the rope. Got the soul, I'll never slow. Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, 'cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs.
So you can hear I was going back and forth between the old chaotic reverb that was just set to anything random versus the reverb where it was synced in with our time here. And I'll even show you real quick because I know I'm going to get comments in there about this. I thought about this because they were so far off. Let me just do something that's not quite as drastic.
Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, 'cause I gotta shine. Give me handcuffs, so give me the rope. Got the soul, I'll never slow. Outlaw, I need what's mine. I need diamonds, 'cause I gotta shine. Give me hands.
So right there, what I did was I went with one that was above but not quite as drastic, and I went with one that was below, not quite as drastic, but they were off sync. They weren't on time. It's like if your hi-hats or your kick drum was off time, and not just by like a cool MPC swing off time, but like really like legitimately just not in time with the rest of the record. So you could hear a noticeable difference. Everything was locked in, and that's definitely a big key into creating a nice professional sounding reverb. So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there's some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man SoundOracle everywhere at SoundOracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to SoundOracle.net. All right, till next time.